Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have a review of A Deadly Thaw by Sarah Ward. This is the second book following In Bitter Chill that I reviewed last year, and I will leave a link somewhere to that review, but it follows the same detectives solving a different mystery. A number of years ago, Lena Gray was convicted for murdering her husband Andrew in their bed, and 10 years down the line, or however many years down the line, her husband's body has been found in a disused mortuary. Just who did she murder all those years ago? Lena has been released from prison, but since this book starts, we end up following her sister Kat, who also ends up having to find her sister, find out who Lena killed, because Lena keeps sending this person to give her clues to just where Lena is and just what Lena has done. But Kat doesn't understand what the clues are adding up to. She's also got the problem that she's a therapist and she might be about to engage in some not very ethical things. And the detectives are all there to try and figure out and piece together what happened, but they are going to be facing some investigation because, you know, when you identify a dead body however many years ago, you should probably be identifying the right person. So this time they're being meticulous in everything they're doing, really worried and tense about the situation they're in because they don't want to make any more missteps on this case. A Deadly Thaw is a great addition to the crime genre. Once again, you can tell that Sarah Ward is definitely a writer who has been, and she has read a lot of crime fiction before, and she knows just what to do to leave the reader guessing, to leave the reader tense and wondering what's going to happen to these characters. It is the perfect mystery. I thought when I first heard about this, the man who was murdered 10 years ago showing up dead on a mortuary table, I thought that had like rings of Agatha Christie and classic crime. There is a duality of characters here in that you will always have like a mirror image to one character, and this really worked for me in impressing on my mind the almost Agatha Christie thing about the book, in that there is like the mysterious dark twin. And throughout the book I kept questioning whether one of the sisters was going to turn out to actually have been the other sister and whether there were two sisters. And, you know, I was going really far-fetched with some of my ideas. I was going like, was there a mysterious birth years ago? And maybe it's just the kind of reader I am that I can't properly pick up on clues. But I really think that Sarah Ward is doing a good job with her writing here and with her characters. And yes, at times I did get confused trying to keep all of these threads in my head, but that was more the reader thing and my reader thing of when I'm reading crime or when I'm watching a murder mystery on the television, I like to be able to try and piece it together, and will often confuse myself with all of these different bits, and then my mother will be there and she'll just be like, that's the person who did it. And I always have to like overthink these things. What I also appreciated about this book, it mentions Macclesfield, my hometown, and it mentions Whitby, which is probably my favourite place in the world. So although it doesn't mention them, you know, like as much as I would have liked, you know, like every other page, it does a really good job. And I really like that Ward is taking this almost Nordic noir thing and applying it to Derbyshire, because people who live around this area and live near to the Peak District are going to understand that it can almost be this very mysterious, dark place, especially when the fog is up. And I think the cover of this book does a very good job of emphasising that. Another thing that I appreciate about these books, the two that exist so far, is the fact that you're not just following the investigation, you are following the characters, and in doing that, Ward gives us a chance to feel more for these characters and also get a sense of what their lives are like when crime isn't involved. And you can see that some of the detectives are battling and vying to try and get a life outside of these crimes and how difficult that is for them. And I am really impressed with this book because it gives me the sense of all the things that I like in a crime novel or crime dramas on the television in book form, which is always a fantastic thing because I spend most of my spare time reading nowadays. And I also really thought that this was an intriguing plot, and that in Sarah's books you get to see how the characters are being affected by the crime, and you don't just leave them for hundreds of pages at a time and then come back to them to ask them a question. And I think that that's very important to show how these crimes are actually affecting real characters, because it also gives us gives the reader like a passage into this world, and we are able to view this through Kat's eyes, so that whenever she's feeling lost about something, it's okay for us to feel lost about it as well. But it doesn't really happen that often. Also, this has really short chapters, so it appeals to that sense of when you're in bed and it's midnight, but the next chapter's only about 4 or 5 pages long, and you're like, well, you can read that in a few minutes, so you carry on. I mean, really, who needs sleep? But yes, A Deadly Thought is a commendable sequel to In Bitter Chill. I was really happy to see how these characters are growing and where the detectives are going in their lives and what just might be in store for them in the future. And I'm rather looking forward to reading the next 2 books, because I believe each book is going to follow a different season. So In Bitter Chill was winter, this one is, we're just beginning to see the beginnings of spring, but I can't remember what the 3rd book is called, but I will look it up, find out, and leave a link to that somewhere. Anyway, as I said, great book. If you like crime fiction, go and read it. I don't believe you necessarily have to read the first book to get into this, but by all means go out and read it, because they're rather good, quick reads that will definitely pack a punch. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.